Journalist of the Year award. He's the host of the Citi Breakfast Show and also the general manager here at Citi TV and Citi FM. Bernardino Koku Avle, good morning.
Dziffa. Hi.
How are you?
I'm very happy.
Firstly, congratulations.
Thank you.
This is a big award.
Yes, it's actually bigger than I thought.
Aww.
Because the way people have shown me love, people have called me, you know, it's one thing winning an award for yourself, but if people who are important to you are happy, then it means a lot more. So it's really serious. Wow. The people are calling me.
How was your weekend like? When did it dawn on you that this is a big deal?
I think when they called me, I sort of knew in a sense because they didn't tell me I'd won, but they said, look, Citi is winning some awards, so make sure you're there. Okay. But when they called me, the way people were so happy, shouted, people stood up, I was like, wow, this is a big deal. You know, and it was almost like when the MC was delaying, it's like, oh, just mention the thing.
We just want to
so
know.
People still value excellence. People still want us to do well. And I thought it was really encouraging, yeah.
Wow. Now, everyone is wondering, who's the man that we listen to every morning?
Oh, are you sure?
Who's Bernard Avle? Tell us a bit about yourself.
God.
What drives you?
What
do you do for fun?
How much time do you have? I can't, look, I talk for 4 hours for free every day. Look, I don't know. See, the thing about human beings, you are very complex, right? Mm-hmm. So I am a radio presenter. Yeah. That's at the core what I do. I'm a broadcast journalist, yeah? But I'm also a family man, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm also a manager. Yeah. I'm also a son to somebody. I'm a husband to someone. I'm a father. So what do you want? Which aspect of me do you want to know?
Let's start with what you do in your free time. What do you do for fun?
So because I don't have a lot of free time, I enjoy everything I do. Okay. So I only say, so I'm working, so let me take a trip to Gibraltar for 2 weeks to have fun. No, work is fun. Spending time with my family is fun. Speaking to people like you is fun.
Aww.
So essentially, because there's no other time. Yeah. A lot of people live thinking like, Charlie, let me work, earn $1 million and I'll take a trip to some place. You probably just die. Yeah. So what I try to do is to enjoy the moment. Our work is fast-paced, but because it deals with people, it's not as stressful as people think. So you come to work in the morning, do night shows, but you're talking to people. Human beings are the crown of creation. So when you're interviewing people, you have a mic. It's not as difficult as people think it is. So if, for example, you send a journalist to go to Agbobloshi to speak to market women, it may be hot, it may be stuffy, it may be muddy, but it's energizing, it's rewarding, it's life. So So the balance of a journalist is different from the balance of, say, somebody working in a bank, right?
How?
Because our job deals with people. Yeah. And it's so dynamic, it's in different settings, whether in a studio, whether a storytelling, a documentary, interview. So it's a dynamic space, and I think it's a blessing to be a broadcaster.
I agree.
Yeah.
Now, what drives you? I wake up every day and I hear your motivational messages, or if I may call it that, and I'm like, what book is this man reading now, or what inspired that? Where do you draw your inspiration from?
So I answer that in 2 ways. In one way, there's a lot of my drive coming from inside. So I have conviction about what I was created to do, and I think that God gave me the talents and the gifts He gave me for a specific purpose. I was born at a time that is for this purpose. I always say that if I was born in 1950, I would have been doing this job. Yeah. So God knew why I was born at this time. He gave me the skills He gave me. So one of my drivers is that there's a divine hand which is opening doors for me, is guiding me, is blessing me, and is expecting me to give of my best. Yeah. So that's one. And then on the external, when you see people touched by what you do, somebody calls and says, look, this is an issue. I want you to help me deal with it. I want you to interview this person. When you use media to touch lives, to either hold governments accountable or to give a voice, because the media is in 2 ways. You sort of make sure those who have power are responsible with the power, and then make sure those who are powerless are empowered by the coverage and the voice you give them. When we do that, it motivates.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the early 2000s.
Yes.
Radio Universe.
Yes.
How did you end up there instead of some science lab or?
I think I should write a book about this because always I remember everything like it was yesterday. So when I was in Presec, I was in the Quiz Writers and Debaters Club. So we were interested in current affairs, debating and stuff. So when I was in Legon first year, a friend of mine said, look, there's a radio show on Friday afternoons, 2 to 4 p.m., hosted by DJ Black, where there's a segment for like a 10-minute debate between 2 people.
Okay.
And then they opened the phone line. So they asked me to do a piece. So I came in to do a debate with a lady, Araba. I met her recently now, Araba Samana. She went to GJA, Walter Hall.
Nice.
So we're supposed to debate which of the genders are more promiscuous. So I said, of course, it's women.
Really?
Yes.
No, of course it's men.
That's exactly what Araba said. And most of the callers agreed with her. You know, so I got only one guy who said, Charlie, the guy is speaking sense. Everybody said, well, the guy, take out to the studio. So like, DJ Black said, Charlie Bernard, keep quiet, because I wasn't even allowing him. I was arguing, you know, so I lost the debate.
Wow, clearly.
But when I came out of the studio, Sankara said, you know what, I want to talk to you. Sankara is Francis Ankara. He was the deputy station manager. I said, look, I don't know, but I like you. There's something about you I like.
You stayed the course.
So I was even arguing with the accountant.
Why?
On the topic. I was like, they are like, but what are you arguing on? It doesn't make sense. I said, no, women are more. You know, and I didn't even have the relationship then, so I didn't know what I was talking about. You don't know
what you were talking about.
So I lost the debate, and Sankara says, look, if you are free, you can come on Monday afternoon and we'll train you to be a broadcaster.
Wow.
So he saw something in me at the time. So this is, of course, an Alhaji Abubakar Siddiq, who was his boss. They embraced the idea. They trained me as a normal broadcast journalist. By the time I left Legon, I was a student coordinator, which is like the student leader of the journalists, who are about 15, 20 journalists. So that was 2000 to 2004.
Okay.
So that was my first major.
What did you study for undergrad?
So I studied economics.
Did you have journalism in mind when you walked into the the school?
It's kind of weird, no. So I thought I would be an economist, and I mean, it's not even because I wanted to be an economist. It's just that if you study economics, geog, maths, you enter Legon, you do economics, what are your options? You go and lecture, work in a bank, whatever. So I didn't really think about it. So, and I'll give you another example. So before I went for that interview that I lost, the
debate that you lost,
a friend of mine called Maximus also invited me to read scripts for his radio drama on a program called Open Air Theatre. This was level 100 first semester. So I used to go to Radio Universe every Sunday after church to read a script, acting something. I feel it was divine. God wanted to really show me that this is where I want you to be. So even though I didn't really take the first opportunity he gave me seriously, and God is so kind, he gave me another opportunity with the debate. So it's almost like, this is what you have to do. And when I got into Universe, started the training, it was like a duck to water.
Wow.
It wasn't difficult. I've never worked since that day. I'm serious.
Every day is a fun day.
Every day
for you.
is happiness.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, when did Citi come in the picture?
Oh, wow. So I did Universe for 4 years as a student broadcaster, and then my mentor is called Mark Diamond. Mark Diamond Nyameko is an amazing guy. He one of the most gifted human beings of all time.
What makes him so amazing?
Mark Diamond can do everything. So he's a lawyer now. He's one of the best public speakers.
Wow.
Great poet, amazing singer, writes very well.
So he's an all-rounder
MC.
guy. Wow.
So I used to be in F27, Legon Hall, and he was in F7.
Okay.
And then he would say, Avle, he will cook and give me food to eat. When he's going, he had an inner room. So when he's leaving, he will give me his inner room. I'll go and study there. So it's like his boy.
Yeah.
So he sort of said to me, look, there's a station coming in Accra, which is going to give Joy FM a big, big run for their money.
Wow. And
the station manager is called Samens. He will call you. Just make sure your phone is on. This was 2004.
Wow.
March. So I had a Motorola phone, very big one. And he sent me Samens' number. So I remember Samens' number, 020-201-33 something. So Samens called me and he says, hello, Bernard. Yeah. He says, oh, Diamond has spoken to you. I said, yes. He said, okay. So then Samens explained the Citi project to me in a 10-minute conversation.
Wow.
This is March. That was it. So he asked me to come to his office. When I met him, he's like, when are you ready to start? And when he met me, he explained the idea of Citi, showed me the program clock. And I was like, Samens, we can do this. So
you weren't scared? I mean, how old were you at the time?
I was 23. To even say, we can do this, before he even told me he had given me a job.
Yeah.
So it sort of, there was a connection. And I think the whole Citi thing was set up to help deepen the media. Joy had done a great job. Yeah. And I think they would admit that since Citi came on the scene, they've also improved.
Yeah.
And since we've had new entrants, because competition, when done properly, brings out the best in all of us. So I think it was part of God's plan to make the radio industry deeper and more impactful.
So from the Newsroom to CBS.
Oh, wow.
How was that transition like?
Well, I've told this story many times. So we did Newsroom from like August, September, October, November. Citi started officially in November 2004. And then this was an election year, right? So we started this pre-election monitoring things. So they will send the team to... So I remember I went to the Volta region to do a report. They will send the team to Tamale. So that week, they sent Diamond, the host, and some people to Tamale. So Diamond, Clement, Akapam, Koshiga, and co. Richard Mensah. They went to Tamale. I think they went by air also.
Wow. To
do a series of debates. I remember they interviewed Harun Idrisu versus Mustafa Hamid.
Wow.
That week, they said, since Diamond is part of the trip to Tamale, somebody needs to sit in for him. And I was his producer. So I sat in the seat, and I think they were like, wow.
Were you nervous? Wait. Let's scale back. Yeah. So you're in the newsroom.
Yes.
Diamond is not around.
Yes.
And you have to host this show.
4 days to the election. Because they were going to do an election report.
4 days to the election.
Yes. And
how did you feel?
I didn't feel anything. Because when I was at Radio University, I had done morning. You see, that's the thing. People underestimate the power of student broadcasting. As a student, I was combining economics, being a hall executive, being a class prefect, and being an LPU, church executive with Radio Universe. And I went to Radio Universe 7 days a week. Wow. So people underestimate the kind of training you get. Interview skills, writing skills. I've hosted a dean of students, interviewed all kinds of people as a student. Wow. So although Citi is a different level of the game, it's a different dimension, it's just a bigger room in the same house, right? So I didn't feel anything. I'm like, okay, this is what I do. Bring it on. Because, I'm 23, and that's the thing. When you are young, you are fearless. Because you haven't made enough mistakes. And sometimes when we grow old, we become timid.
But a lot of young people would also have perceived this as, I'm too young, I don't have the experience. Perhaps, your average graduate now is thinking about making money so they can move out of the house. So being part of a startup and having this big responsibility would have probably been too much to handle.
When God wants to give you something, he prepares you for it. You see, so in my 4 years on campus, all those notions had been dispelled. Because, Alaji and Sankara would... I remember the day I was interviewing the SRC president and the dean of students. I was in level 300 or 400. This is a major interview with a big argument. Wow. And Alaji had to come in to calm the nerves. But he didn't ask me to stop the interview. He still trusted my judgment in the interview. So it tells you that even before I got here, there was something they are putting in. Of course, if your MD says you can host the morning show, it means he's... And look, this is Samens who worked with Komla Dumo. This is Samens who set up a number of stations. And as I say, if you are young, and I think we should all be young at heart, because what fear does is fear just limits you. So I didn't feel anything. I was like, bring it on. Put him on. I'll interview him. Because your argument is not more legitimate the older you are. So don't raise your voice. Get a better argument. Don't grow older. Just be wiser. You don't need to be old to be wise. You just need to be a good learner. So I consider myself a lifelong learner. And it's not just reading books. It's being observant, talking to people. If you're a lifelong learner, you can do very well because journalism is so dynamic. So I wasn't intimidated. What the real issue though was, look, people would not have confidence in you, and a lot of people will write things about you, and so I learned very early in my life what to major on, right? Even what to major on, because for example, if you listen to what everybody writes about you, you will just get discouraged. Because even this, some people say, oh, look at him. He said he didn't believe in ours. Man has won award. He's a hypocrite. So a lot of people will say things. I don't think anyone has said anything about you. I've heard people say that. But
back to that point you just made about people writing about you. Yeah. So here you are, 23 years old. Did you see any bad press?
Oh, yes. There was a bit of it.
How did you handle it?
I learned that for every one person who doesn't like you, there are 5 who love you. So it will be really sad to spend all your energy focusing on the one who doesn't like you. You are being unfair to the 5 who love you. Yeah. So even like, for example, when I do phone in, okay, people say, oh, Bernard, did someone say, oh, but you cried when you went on it, you didn't acknowledge everybody. Like, oh, sorry. But let's focus on those who, because you see, if you don't focus on the right things, you can't move. So I learned very early to focus on people that energize me. I listen to happy voices to motivate me, but I listen to unhappy voices to advise me. So although I wouldn't say I only listen to people who say good things about me, when somebody criticizes me, it helps me be careful. So you actually need people like that who always see only the wrong thing about you. You don't spend all your time talking to them, but you pick the wisdom from what they say, and then you feed your energy with those who inspire you. Yeah. Hope that makes sense.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Now today we are celebrating, well, all week long we've been celebrating your success.
Yeah.
But share a bit of the challenges you've faced along the journeys. 14 years now, right?
I think that every sector has its peculiar challenges. When you are a radio presenter who does 3 hours, 40 minutes every day, you tend to be a very good talker, but not a good listener. So you always want your voice with a voice head in a room. So I've had to learn how to listen, right? And it's been an important part of my development. I've had to learn how to be patient because you're always on the move and you're always questioning. So you don't know how to manage relationships properly. So you're talking to your wife and you think you are in a radio setting. You have to change that. I've learned how to make time, because making time for other things that are important, because people like us who are driven by what we do, it's very difficult to get us to also sit down and just talk to people in a human way. So I've had to deal with those challenges. As I say, competition is not fair. Sometimes there are people who deliberately say they wouldn't advertise with us. It's been difficult to... Look, radio is not an easy business. Media certainly is not easy. So we've needed a lot of grit and grace to get where we've gotten to. So it's very challenging. But what has happened is that we've grown tenacity and we've learned how to survive. So we, for example, don't poach people. We've learned how to manage our costs very well. We've learned how to work with young people, not use them, because all young people who work with us, when they've left, they've become better. So it's like a school. Some have stayed because we've grown to accommodate what they want to do. And some love this as their job. But some also need it as a stepping stone. I think that the challenges have helped to refine us to do better.
Wow. So we're going to segue now into CBS, Citi Breakfast Show, that also won an award. Best radio show, morning show in the country, 2017. Tell us a bit about the team, how you envisioned it, what actually went into creating
So
CBS.
For many years, we were trying to follow the old model where you have a larger-than-life personality. It's good-looking, great voice, has charisma to drive the show. But we quickly realized that the complexity of the issues we were dealing with and my limitations as a person, I didn't have that kind of persona. So what Samens decided was, you know what, let's create a show that complements you. So you have 3-4 smart people, we share the labor, we have a conversation. We also felt that the airwaves had been clogged by just politicians and specialized pundits who told a specific political line. We thought there were some issues that required a more nuanced discussion. So instead of having always this person, that person, have a conversation. So there are days I just go on my own rants. There are days I hardly talk, the team speaks, and there are days I do one-on-one interviews. So make it more dynamic so people to enjoy more. And then pick issues which are more relevant. So it's not just the leading political stories. So roads, schooling, healthcare, and all these things. So that's the idea. Initially, people didn't like it. They're like, why? Why are you young people talking? You are not experts. Even last 2 months, I went to a Rotary meetings, like, why do people want to comment on everything? I said, okay, if a politician comments on everything, it's fine. But if I do, it's not fine. So the problem is not me, it's you. So I feel the model is still forming. And the reason this awards are important is that a lot of people now say, look, journalism has accepted. Because don't forget, I will probably be the first journalist to have won this without producing any work.
What do you mean?
You see, most times you have to produce work. So Komla worked on SNIT. That was his work. You have to, Seth Kwame Boateng, he worked on the prisons. He produced his work, the judges.
So your award is based on an output of some sort, on a project you worked on.
Even, I think Kwame, his incubator project, taking journalism out of the studio to solving a specific problem. It was a body of work. If you ask me what work I did to win it, I can't tell you. Because we did so many things. We did Galamsey, we did hospitals abandoned, all kinds of things. And some of it is with a team. So I didn't produce any body of work. I didn't enter. Do you understand me? So the reason I'm quite excited is that it sort of redefines what journalism impact means. That it doesn't have to be one person. So that's what I'm saying, that the team is important. For Citi, Kojo is doing the research, and Amma is doing the human rights, and Goffred is doing the politics, international relations dimension. Goffred is playing the music. I'm asking the questions. Sometimes I bring in Nathan to do the other dimension, international. So because it's too important to be monopolized by one person, right? And it's the power of 4 over the power of 1. So the reason the breakfast show is great is that it takes pressure off me too. Right? So I may not be strong on an issue, but it doesn't matter. Kojo has done the research. So he can even do the interview. And that's because we need conversations. We don't need eloquent speakers. We need meaningful conversations. So what I see Breakfast Show tries to do is to daily give a flavor of meaningful conversations about our society and about our future in a powerful way, which is liberated, is not limited by what somebody thinks. So sometimes we take on both NDC and MPP frontally. We take strong positions. When you attack journalists, we are not your friends.
Yeah.
We don't like mediocrity. Laziness is not our friend. If you are incompetent in running a public institution, we'll come after you. And we will do it consistently. We can mention your name every day for one month. We have to do it.
Yeah.
Because our job, you see, journalism essentially is not just a platform for public discourse, but it also serves as a check on power. Yeah. Right? The governed have been disempowered by the people who are in government. Yeah. So we have to empower people with the right information, give them the tools to make the right decisions. Mm-hmm. So we are a watchdog, we are a scorekeeper, and we are also a gatekeeper. And we take that responsibility very seriously. Mm-hmm. So we don't joke with it at all.
So you've just defined journalism for us.
Oh, yes.
But you mentioned earlier, impact journalism.
Yes.
What
yes.
is that?
So journalism, there are a few dimensions of journalism, right? So apart from informing, where you do gatekeeping, you decide what's important, then you do what we call scorekeeping. Mm-hmm. You track and you say, this person did that. You're also a watchdog. Who's doing wrong? Let's bring them in. When you put all those three together, it's journalism for societal impact. Mm. But not only that, it's also to shape people's minds, right? So you need to discuss positive things. You need to help depict people in the way. Oh, black people are not depicted properly in the media. And sometimes we, the Ghanaian media and African media, we take the narrative that the Western media portrays about our continent. We need to change that. So it's a very important job in a democracy to tell stories. Somebody says journalism is a job. One of our jobs is to make the significant interesting. So when something is important, you tell a story around it for people to want to know it. Mm-hmm. So it's a job that requires a lot of nuance, a lot of knowledge, a lot of humility, a lot of commitment. And I think that's where the impact is. So some can be sudden, some can also be gradual. Mm-hmm. Eventually, people begin to see. So because at the end of the day, right, true journalism exposes reality. Mm-hmm. The reality of what is happening and the reality of what we want to be, who we are. So if you do journalism properly, people believe in themselves. Yeah. They will not be taken for granted. Their votes will not be bought. Their loyalty will not be purchased. They will give up their best because they know who they are. So journalism opens people's eyes when it's done properly. Mm. Because sunshine is the best disinfectant. Yeah.
Where did you get that
Sunlight.
from?
It's something we generally say.
Sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Yes,
what does that mean?
When you throw light on an issue, it exposes the things through nature, and it also heals. Oh. So most bad things are done at the cover of darkness. Mm. So let's throw light. More information is better.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we've gone through your early days here.
Yeah.
CBS.
Yes.
Now let's talk about GM. Being a general manager.
Yes.
How was that like? Not only being responsible for yourself, but now managing teams.
I always knew that because the industry of electronic media and independent media in Ghana is not that much developed. So for example, Airways liberalized in the mid-90s. You need competent management. So I always knew I'll end up in a management position. Mm. Which was why when I was going for my master's, I was advised to do an MBA to get a general grasp of management. So it's something I've been readied for. Typically, you have good journalists sometimes tend to leave journalism and enter full management. Mm-hmm. Luckily for me, the way the Citi team is set up, I can still practice journalism and practice management. Yeah. Within our circumstances, good. It's not well practiced. In certain developed spaces, you're either a manager or a media practitioner, like at the BBC. Yeah. But luckily, I can do both.
Have you faced any challenges?
Oh, plenty. Too many. Too many. So, for example, we're doing TV now. Mm-hmm. TV is capital intensive. It's very expensive. We've had to employ a lot more people. We've decided not to leverage our finance to go for money from our banking sector, which doesn't really make sense. Yeah. Interest rates are too high. So it's very stretching. We've had to cut back on a lot of things. We've had to explain to people that we're on a journey. So people we employ understand where we are going. And we, the leadership, live within our means too. Mm-hmm. You see, if you see my boss in the car he drives and how he travels, it should tell you that if this man, after all these years in radio, is still this basic, you get me? It's not like some people are taking the money and chopping and we are suffering. No. So it's very important to do it that way. Because when you get people to believe in a dream, they'll do anything to get it accomplished.
Just like you talked about for radio, you had to learn to listen. What are some character traits you had to work on when you became a manager?
You know, when you lead people, there are always different ways of approaching it. When I was very young, I used to drive people, and I used to be very harsh. And I used to say, look, we won't sacrifice anything for the job, so I knock people's heads just to make sure they do what the company wants. So you achieve, quote unquote, what the company wants, forgetting that the company is people.
Was that because you were hard on yourself?
I was just too young.
Okay.
I didn't understand leadership. So you would achieve your aim, but you hurt a lot of people. I've learned that the company is actually the people. So instead of hitting their heads and pushing and speaking, you are bad, you are not good, always bad, you balance that. Sometimes you just open their eyes and they'll work so hard and you'll be surprised at what they can do. Other times you have to say, look, if you misbehave, we'll sack you, but you have to balance it.
Okay, now let's talk about the next chapter. You've brought in TV. What's ahead for you as Bernard for the Citi TV, Citi FM? What's the next chapter?
So I see my life as I'm like a prophecy for what a lot of people will become. I see so whatever I do, I know that there are lots of people who will be disappointed if I fail.
Yeah.
So having won this award is like, you know what, a lot of people have been liberated to do things the way I do it, right? The next chapter is to grow better leaders. So I don't need to be on air forever.
Yeah.
There are people who can take over what I do and do it 3, 4 times, 10 times better. Take it to the next level. So my focus apart from excelling in what I do today is to make sure in 5, 6 years, whenever I leave, there are so many people on different stations who've made what seems to be excellence today the new normal. Right? That's one of my focus. So developing leaders. It's very core to the African issue. Develop strong, competent leaders who are ethical, who fear God, who love people. It's very important. So in my leadership as a journalist now, I'm focusing on getting the people who work with me to understand what leadership means. So it's actually a leadership journey. It's not just a media work. It's a leader. This whole thing is about leadership. Getting people to take responsibility, to be courageous, to be kind and honest. Those are the things we're focusing on. And that will be my focus for the next chapter.
Wow.
Yeah.
What can we expect from Citi FM and Citi TV?
I think what has been written is very clear that we are blessed and we are on a certain divine mission. And so Citi will keep excelling. Citi will keep pushing the envelope. Citi will keep listening. Citi will keep humble. We will not get to a point where we become too big to be corrected.
Yeah.
So we are big enough to be competitive, but small enough to be nimble and fast. So Citi will be relevant for the next, hopefully, 100 years, if not more. Yeah.
Okay, now let's do your 3 key advice for young people watching, someone who just, entered university where you were when you stumbled upon Radio Universe. What advice would you give them?
You need internal direction. You see, a lot of people have opinions about your life. You need to be convinced about why you were made, what you have to do. Because people say, go and become a lawyer, go and do this, you have this. Everybody has an opinion, but you need direction inside. It's very important. So that when you even take a chance to do something which doesn't pay well, you know that you are honest to yourself, that is what you are supposed to do. Yeah. That's number 1. Number 2, you need to learn how to learn. You can't read all the books in the world. You can't listen to all the tips in the world. So you have to be open to learning from life and from people. So smartness is not the sharpest in class. It's the most emotionally perceptive about what's happening around them. So you need to develop a way of learning. So you learn something new every day. That's number 2. Number 3, honesty, truth. I think that if you stand for the truth doesn't mean harsh criticism. Truth expressed in a loving way. I've criticized politicians very harshly sometimes, but even my most fierce critic will struggle to say I was unfair to them. Because I would do it in a respectful way. I will let you know that even though I disagree with you, what you did, I don't approve of it. So you say, Bernard, Charlie, today you finished me, but anyway, it's cool. I prefer that because the end result is bigger than personal feelings. I'm not here because I want to feel good about myself. We have a big responsibility on this continent. We have a big responsibility for our next generation. So if you stand for the truth and you speak it with love, there's nothing you can't do in journalism. It's nothing. Those will be my 3 pieces of advice.
Okay. Now, just quick answers to these questions. What makes a great journalist?
Many things. Passion, honesty, hard work. And yeah, passion because it's drive, honesty, speak the truth, hard work.
Those are your 3 things.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the role of media in our national development?
Light.
Moving forward.
Light.
Sunlight.
Media is light. Send light. So media is light and truth. Light. A leader's first job is to define reality. And reality is best seen in light. So everything we see from Hollywood to China is all media. They create it. So media's job is to let people see who they are. So light, that's media. Media education, they are light. So another word for media is light.
Another word for media is light. Because they're shining the light.
On.
Thank you. Bernardino Koku Avle.
Thank you.
Who is the GM here. He just won the Prof. PAV Answer Journalist of the Year.